Following Andre's introduction, a similarly well-dressed Gavin walked on stage and stood next to the hosts. He greeted the audience, and they welcomed him with a warm applause. "It really was Gavin's doing," Kim said. "I refused to work with Sanger Corporation, so he went off on his own and participated in their event." "There's nothing we can do about that," Stephen said. "When Tanith Corporation signed a contract with Gavin and the others, there was no written rule preventing them from participating in commercial events without permission." Kim sighed. "It's my fault. They were students, and I didn't want to impose any restrictions on their activities. I didn't think they would turn out this way after graduating and becoming popular. Gavin's not all that different from Jake." "Luckily, Julia hasn't become the second Michelle," Stephen said absent-mindedly. He paused for a second before asking, "Wait, she didn't quit like the others, right?" "No, she's still with Tanith Corporation." "She's loyal. We should treat her well." After exchanging pleasantries with Gavin, Andre announced that he would sign a contract with him for an annual salary of $30 million. The moment this was aired on TV, everyone in the city was in an uproar. Gavin was a popular actor from Tanith Corporation. The 5 movies he'd starred in were in full swing, and his career was on the rise. But in the middle of his success, he'd decided to sign a contract with another company. This raised suspicions that Gavin had a fallout with Tanith Corporation. Even the guests attending the charity event were discussing the reason behind the sudden switch. Gavin scanned the audience. "I bet my fans must be curious about my decision. Why would I sign with Sanger Corporation at this time of year? I'd like to give everyone an explanation. First, Sanger Corporation is an international enterprise, and they're ranked in the top 10 on the tax revenue list. They held tonight's event to raise $100 million for charity. A company like Sanger Corporation is worth joining." A thunderous applause came from the audience. Andre was more than satisfied with Gavin's speech. The better their company's reputation, the more advantageous it would be for them. He was the one who'd persuaded Gavin to attend the event, and he could use this as a basis for asking the company for a promotion or a bonus. Gavin continued. "The second reason is something that I'm sure many of you will be interested in. It concerns my conflicts with Tanith Corporation." The audience listened intently. The private and scandalous affairs of celebrities like Gavin were more interesting than their work. This was especially true for many of the reporters. They were anticipating Gavin's next words as they took out their recording pens. "You may not know this, but for the 5 movies I starred in, Tanith Corporation gave me a total of $500,000, which is $100,000 per movie. I would like to ask everyone a question. Do you think this is an appropriate amount?" "It's unreasonable," one of his fans called out. This was an era where the success of celebrities was determined by their number of fans. Jake received $50 million for each movie he'd starred in, and many other celebrities earned over $100 million a year. And yet, Gavin only earned $500,000. "That's right, it doesn't make sense. Do all of you know how much money Tanith Corporation earned from the 5 movies?" This was a trade secret, so no one in the audience knew the answer. $1 billion, Gavin said. "If you exclude production costs, Kim Cassidy, the CEO of Tanith Corporation, earned $500 million. His words caused another uproar. $500 million, Gavin repeated in an exaggerated manner. "She received this much in profits, but she only gave me a measly $500,000. Isn't this a scam?" Kim was dumbfounded. She hadn't expected Gavin to reveal their company's trade secrets to the public. With Gavin's encouragement, the audience began criticizing Kim and Tanith Corporation. "Sanger Corporation is cunning. They came up with a way to discredit me during their event. Tanith Corporation is going to make the headlines again." Stephen also wasn't expecting Gavin to be so daring. A charity event had turned into a battle. "Young people these days aren't interested in martial arts anymore. They only care about gossip." He grabbed the remote and turned off the TV. "Let's stop watching. I'm disgusted." Gavin's words were like a stone that gave rise to 1,000 ripples. Kim and Tanith Corporation became the target of the media. Gavin's fans were like his emissaries of justice. When Kim went to work the next day, a few of Gavin's fans splashed her with cold water. Even Natalie and Kyle were harassed the second they stepped out of the house. They were too afraid to go outside, so they hid at home and complained to Stephen. In the afternoon, Stephen received a call from Dennis. Mr. Adams, the $500 million the Wyvern Group donated to charity disappeared, and on the same day, Sanger Corporation donated $500 million to the same charity foundation. Stephen knew that this couldn't be a coincidence. He left the house and went straight to the Wyvern Group. The Wyvern Group was an investor in Tanith Corporation, so they weren't affected by the storm. If there was no wind, then there wouldn't be any waves, but the wind was the mysterious disappearance of the $500 million donations. On the way to the Wyvern Group, Stephen instructed Jack to investigate. It turned out that Sanger Corporation bribed the charity foundation to write down their name under the Wyvern Group's donation. Dennis was furious after hearing the truth. I'm heading over there to deal with them right now. Stephen stopped him before he could storm out of the office. Calm down, Dennis. Don't be reckless. This is a conflict between two businesses. It's not the same as the battlefield. I have to say, though, they're brave for taking credit for our donation. I can't let this go. What's worse is that the charity foundation is listening to them, Dennis said. They're supposed to be an organization that makes the world a better place. It's time to weed out the worms and clean up that place. Stephen agreed. He decided to bring Jasmine with him to have a chat with the charity foundation. Jasmine was the vice president of the Wyvern Group, so it made sense for her to confront them. Jasmine was infuriated when she found out that Sanger Corporation took credit for the Wyvern Group's $500 million donations. To think they're an international enterprise. The owner is amazing. He found out the truth so quickly. When will he be coming to the company? Jasmine rolled her eyes when Stephen started fidgeting. Why are you so nervous? You're acting like you're the owner. When I meet him, I'll dress up and confess. He's the only one worthy of winning my heart. I've already said this 100 times. The owner isn't interested in you. Be quiet and let's go. When they arrived, they asked to meet with the person in charge. Her name was Jane, and she appeared to be around 30 years of age. Jasmine got straight to the point. Miss Jane, we're here to ask what happened to the $500 million we donated. Jane recognized Jasmine because she was the one who had taken care of the donation. The moment she saw Jasmine, she knew what was going on, but she pretended to be clueless. Are you sure the Wyvern Group donated $500 million? We never received it. Jasmine was in disbelief. They'd clearly met before when she was here to finalize the details of the donation. Stephen knew right away that Jane was colluding with Sanger Corporation. I heard that Sanger Corporation made the same donation. Would you like to enlighten us? What's wrong with them donating $500 million to charity? It's for a good cause, Jane said. If the money they donated was really their funds, we wouldn't have anything to say, Jasmine retorted. The point is that the $500 million they supposedly donated was the Wyvern Group's money. Your foundation manipulated the donors' names. This is unacceptable. Don't talk nonsense. We did no such thing. If you keep this up, I'll have to call the police. Sure, go ahead and report us, but let me warn you. It's not us they'll be arresting. Your foundation faked the donor's name. Should I ask the police to check with the bank and confirm who the $500 million transfer came from? Jane frowned. Miss Jasmine, why did your company donate to our charity foundation? Was it for a good reputation? Did you want to be famous? Of course not. We donated to help the people. Jane held out her hands. Exactly. The purpose of donating money to charity is to help people in need. Does it matter whether it came from the Wyvern Group or Sanger Corporation? That's why you don't have to worry. You've accomplished your goal. You've donated money and helped those in need. What more is there to discuss? Jasmine was stunned by how shameless she was being. Why would the Wyvern Group need to donate to charity to gain a good reputation? Stephen asked. We've been doing fine without the donation. We don't need you to make a name for ourselves. Since Jane couldn't pretend anymore, she decided to be straightforward. The $500 million has already been transferred to our account. Whatever happens next is up to us. It'll be useless even if you go to the police. There's nothing you can do. Although the Wyvern Group's reputation had been soaring, and they were rumored to have an extensive background, they couldn't be compared to an international enterprise like Zanger Corporation. Moreover, she and Andre were a couple. He'd reassured her that if something happened, Zanger Corporation would take responsibility. That's why she wasn't afraid of Jasmine and Steven. Jasmine was seething with anger at Jane's attitude. She was the one who'd taken care of the donation. If she couldn't take care of this issue, Dennis and the owner of the Wyvern Group would think she was incompetent. Just as Jasmine was getting anxious, Steven said, "It doesn't matter what you're up to. I'll expose you today. Who do you think you are? Chairman of the Charity Foundation? Or Santa Ana's governor? From the way you're talking, you're making yourself sound important." With the support of Zanger Corporation, Jane wasn't afraid of anything. No matter how influential the Wyvern Group was, they couldn't be compared to an enterprise that had connections with the local government in Washington, D.C. Steven knew that nothing would come out of arguing with Jane. He took out his phone and dialed the governor's number. At this time, the governor was attending a meeting with the upper management of the Charity Foundation, including the CEO, Ernest. The agenda was to discuss how to use the $500 million donations from Zanger Corporation. Zanger Corporation is a large international business that has been in the U.S. for many years. They have branches across the country. They've made significant contributions to the GDP, and they've even donated $500 million to Santa Ana's Charity Foundation in hopes of using the funds to better our city. The governor was praising Zanger Corporation nonstop. While he was rambling, someone's phone rang. According to the rules, the attendees were required to turn off their phones. No one was allowed to pick up calls while the meeting was in progress. The governor glanced around the room with a displeased look on his face. "Whose phone is that? How many times have I told you that you're required to turn off your phones before the meeting starts, and that you're not allowed to answer any calls? Do any of you take our regulations seriously?" The upper management of the Charity Foundation looked at each other. All of their phones were off. The secretary whispered into the governor's ear, "Sir, your phone is ringing." "It's my phone? That's nonsense. I work for the city. I know the rules better than anyone else." After saying that, the governor realized something. "Hurry up and bring me that phone," he said to his secretary. Before the commander-in-chief assumed his position as the deputy head of Santa Ana, he gave each of the leaders of the city a special phone. If that phone was ringing, then it could only be one person who was calling. The secretary returned with the phone in hand. A familiar string of numbers was on the screen. "It's him," the governor said. He didn't hesitate to answer the call. Steven's voice sounded from the other end of the line. "Is this the governor of Santa Ana?" "Yes, that's me. Hello, Mr. Adams." "I'm calling because I have a problem. The Wyvern Group donated $500 million to charity, but the foundation let Zanger Corporation take credit for it." The governor was responsible for the city of Santa Ana, and for something like this to happen right under his nose could be considered a dereliction of duty. For the commander-in-chief to call in personally, this had to be a serious matter. "Mr. Adams, please don't worry. I'll take care of this immediately." The upper management of the Charity Foundation stared at the governor in confusion. They'd never seen him lose composure like this. Whoever called couldn't be an ordinary existence. One person crossed everyone's minds. "Did that person just call?" Ernest asked carefully. The governor gave him a cold look. "Yes, it was him. It doesn't seem like you're managing the Charity Foundation that well. That person called because there's a problem." Ernest didn't know what the governor was trying to get at. "I apologize, but I'm not following. Could you please explain?" "Ernest, do you really not understand, or are you pretending to be ignorant? The $500 million donation was from the Wyvern Group, not Zanger Corporation. The commander-in-chief questioned me about this. What's going on? If you don't investigate this matter, we'll end up with our heads rolling on the ground." Ernest was at a loss. He turned to the executives of the charity foundation. "You heard what the governor said. Can anyone tell me what's going on?" As the chairman of the charity foundation, Ernest wasn't always told the details of every single donation. But the executives were different. No one would know better than them. One of the executives avoided eye contact. Ernest glared at him. "Was it you?" "I'm sorry, Mr. Ernest. I did something ridiculous after hearing Andre's nonsense," the executive said. He was nothing compared to the commander-in-chief, so he had no choice but to spill. Ernest was furious. "This was a $500 million donation." He stood up and looked around the room. "Why are you all still sitting here? This meeting was pointless. We have to hurry back and take care of this." Jane mocked Stephen after he finished the call. "If I didn't know any better, I would have thought you were really calling our governor." "I did call the governor just now," Stephen said. Jane rolled her eyes. "You might as well say you were talking to the commander on the phone." The high and mighty leaders of the city were out of reach for her and Zanger Corporation. It was impossible for Stephen to have a connection with the governor. Jasmine didn't believe him either. "Stephen, can't you be more reliable? What do you mean you were calling the governor?" "Never mind. Let's head back and talk about it." "No, we can't leave yet. The chairman of this charity foundation and the governor will be coming soon to take care of this issue," Stephen said. Jane laughed. "All right, why don't we all wait and see if the chairman and the governor really come? Even if they do show up, they'll side with me, not you two." An authoritative voice sounded from the entrance. "Those are some big words you're spewing, Jane. Are you looking down on your boss?" Ernest demanded. "You're not the only one," the governor added. "She's looking down on me, too." Jane was astonished to see the chairman standing at the door. The man behind him looked familiar. She had a feeling she'd seen him on TV before. Then it struck her. That was the governor of Santa Ana. Besides them, the upper management of the charity foundation was all here, with the exception of one person. "Mr. Ernest, these two people are causing trouble for us. They said they're from the Wyvern Group," Jane said. "I think it's you who's causing all this trouble. The Wyvern Group donated $500 million. But you and someone else manipulated the donor's name and changed it to Zanger Corporation. Tell me, how much money did they give you?" Jane continued to deny it. "I didn't take any money." "Of course you didn't," Stephen said. "Andre is the representative of Zanger Corporation, and you're his girlfriend. No wonder you were daring enough to ignore the rules. From now on, Jane will be removed from her position and handed over to the police," Ernest said. Jane collapsed on the couch. Her career was over. Ernest glanced at the other executives. "We'll be going to the police station later and giving a statement. This is a serious crime." While the situation was being resolved, Jasmine stared at Stephen. What exactly was his connection with the owner of the Wyvern Group? He made one call, and the chairman, executives, and the governor himself had rushed over. This incident made her even more curious about the owner's identity. The government issued a public announcement clarifying that it was the Wyvern Group who had donated $500 million to charity. The charity foundation issued an apology and even expressed its regrets on TV. There was so much talk in the city that it made headlines. All of a sudden, Zanger Corporation was at the center of public criticism. The vice chairman of the charity foundation personally paid Andre a visit. "Mr. Andre, you've been our business partner for many years. I'm here on behalf of the foundation to ask if you would like to donate $500 million. If so, then please transfer the money to our account. Of course, if you're reluctant, you may choose not to donate. However, you may never recover your reputation." Andre gritted his teeth. "All right, we'll donate $500 million. He knew that the vice chairman was right. Zanger Corporation was a large international enterprise, and if its reputation was tarnished, it would be difficult for them to recover. Even if they did manage to restore their reputation, people had a good memory. This incident would eventually resurface and bite them back. After transferring $500 million, Andre received a call from Zanger Corporation's headquarters in Japan. The CEO, Ichiro Watanabe, was calling. Andre, is this how you do things? Not only did you ruin our reputation, you even gave up $500 million for nothing. Do you think our company has an endless supply of money? Where do you think that money came from? It was thanks to me that your company succeeded in the U.S. Don't you have any compassion for your employees? Andre resisted the urge to say his thoughts out loud. I'm sorry, Mr. Watanabe. It's my fault. You're useless. I'll be sending my son Shun to take over your work. Pick him up at the airport when he arrives. Andre was worried when he heard that Shun Watanabe would be coming to Santa Ana. He'd seen him in action before. Shun was in his early 20s, and he was a martial arts expert. He was lustful, and he was cruel to his colleagues and his underlings. Andre couldn't help but shiver at the thought of someone like him coming to Santa Ana. There was no helping it. It was his fault for letting the situation get out of hand. 2 days later, at around 10 in the morning, Andre arrived at the airport and waited. 10 minutes later, a Toyota pulled up to him, with several similar models following close behind. When Shun got out of the car, Andre went over with a smile. Welcome to Santa Ana, Mr. Shun. Shun glanced at him before kicking him in the shin. How incompetent are you? You can't even deal with a company like the Wyvern Group by yourself? You made me come all the way here to take care of it. I could be out partying and picking up girls right now. 2 days ago, one of the employees at his father's company caught his eye. Before he could make a move on her, his father called and told him that he was being transferred to Zanger Corporation's Santa Ana branch. Shun was not happy to hear about this. Andre grimaced, but retained his smile. I'm very sorry, Mr. Shun, but you could do the same thing here. That's true. I heard Tanith Corporation's movies went viral. The leading actress is really pretty, Shun asked. You've come at the right time. I've recruited a few actresses who starred in those movies, like Kayla and Brielle, Andre said. Shun scoffed. That's the only thing you've done right. Kayla and Brielle can't compare to the female lead. But they're still pretty. I'll have them tonight. I'll make arrangements and have Kayla and Brielle accompany you later, Andre replied. What about Julia? Get her too, Shun said. Understood. Actually, there's someone else you might be interested in. Tanith Corporation's CEO, Kim Cassidy. She's Stephen Adams' husband. Stephen's the one who ruined our company's reputation. Is that so? I'll see Kayla and Brielle tonight, and I'll meet with Kim tomorrow, Shun said. When Andre called Kayla and Brielle into his office, they thought it was for an important event, so they dressed up. Gavin thought Andre wanted to discuss business, so he didn't want to miss out. He tagged along with Kayla and Brielle. Shun wasn't pleased to have an uninvited guest, and he was also annoyed with Gavin's flattery. Are you the person Andre recruited from Tanith Corporation? I believe your annual salary is $30 million. Yes, that's me, Gavin said. Shun called Andre over and whispered into his ear. Then they led everyone to the conference room. When they stepped inside, their phones buzzed with incoming text messages. Gavin and the others were pleasantly surprised to see their pay being deposited into their bank account. Andre smiled. I believe you've all received the notification from your bank. This is a portion of the salary that our company has issued to you in advance. You've been with us for several days, and Mr. Shun is impressed with all of you. He's decided to sign the contract. Take a good look. You may sign if there are no issues. After this, you'll be an official employee of the company. Andre took out the contracts and passed them to Gavin and the others. Gavin was excited when he thought about the balance on his card. There's no need to read it over. The company is being so generous. I trust them. He picked up the pen and signed his name. Seeing that Gavin had signed the contract so easily, everyone else picked up their pens and signed their own names. Andre gathered the contracts and extended his hand with a smile. We are now colleagues. Let's have a good time together at Zanger Corporation. With the contracts in hand, Andre returned to Shun's office. Is it done? Shun asked. Yes, they've all finished signing the contracts. It's so easy to fool those idiots. Tell Kayla and Brielle to come over. Because Kayla and Brielle had just received several $100,000 in compensation, they thought Shun wanted to see them to pay the rest of the money the company had promised them. When they entered the office, Shun closed the door. His eyes raked over their bodies. "Do you want to take off your own clothes, or should I do it for you?" Kayla and Brielle looked at each other. "Mr. Shun, what are you talking about?" "I'm telling the two of you to spend a night with me. Don't you understand?" Kayla and Brielle fell silent before turning around. "You want to leave? You signed a contract with Zanger Corporation. It clearly states that you have to do whatever you want." Isaac, one of the supporting actors, had a nagging feeling that something wasn't right. "Gavin, do you think Kayla and Brielle have been gone for a while? Why haven't they returned yet?" Isaac was interested in Kayla, and he was currently pursuing her. For the past few days, he'd been searching for information about Shun Watanabe. He was one of the most arrogant people to exist, and he came from a wealthy family. There were numerous articles about his scandals, and Isaac was worried that something had happened to Kayla and Brielle. "They're probably fine," Gavin said nonchalantly. "The company paid me $1 million in advance. Why would Mr. Shun do anything to Kayla and Brielle?" "I'm still worried. Also, I can't stop thinking about the contract." "What's wrong with it? Look, if you're so worried, why don't we review the contract? Maybe then you'll stop grumbling all day." Isaac's contract was within arm's reach, so Gavin grabbed it and looked it over. Isaac peered over his shoulder to read along. There didn't seem to be any issues with the first few provisions, but Isaac noticed something fishy on the second page. He pointed to one of the clauses. "Didn't they say they would give me around $1 million per month? When did it become $1,500 a month?" Gavin took out his own contract and flipped to the second page. His monthly salary was $3,500. He rubbed his eyes and looked again, but the amount was still $3,500. There were no bonuses and no benefits. Besides that, this was a contract for a lifetime. He had to accept any movie that Zanger Corporation requested of him. It didn't matter whether it was a leading role or a supporting role. He had no say in the matter. As for the revenue from endorsements, the company would be taking all of it. Gavin quickly took a look at Isaac's contract. Besides the difference in salary, the other terms were exactly the same. "This is a scam," Isaac said. "I told you we should have looked it over carefully before signing, but you wouldn't let me. We basically signed our whole lives away, and the company can order us around however they see fit. And a salary of $1,500 is too little." Isaac was regretting his choice to follow Gavin to Zanger Corporation. Gavin's monthly salary was $3,500. At least he could survive on that amount. But what could he do with $1,500? That was barely enough to cover the basic expenses. When they were both at Tanith Corporation, his salary was much lower than Gavin's. Before they left, the company was planning on launching a TV series with Gavin as the leading actor. Isaac had only played supporting roles thus far, but if Gavin left for Zanger Corporation, he could have replaced him as the leading actor. How could he have abandoned Tanith Corporation for Zanger Corporation? Gavin started panicking. "We need to talk to Andre." The two of them barged into Andre's office. Gavin threw the contract at him. "What's the meaning of this?" Andre seemed to be expecting them. "I told you to read the contract carefully before signing. I gave you a hint, but you still signed. Why are you blaming me?" Gavin thought back to the day they signed the contracts. Andre had deposited an advance in their salary to their bank accounts with the intention of making Zanger Corporation seem trustworthy. None of them bothered to read the contract before signing. "This is against the law. It's deceit." "You think this is illegal? That's ridiculous. I didn't hide anything when I passed out the contracts. I didn't force anyone to sign. All of you chose to sign. You wouldn't be able to win even if you sued us," Andre said. Gavin and Isaac's expressions darkened. Andre was right. Even if they managed to take this to court, Zanger Corporation had an extensive network of connections throughout the city. They had no chance of winning. Gavin could only compromise. "The salary is too low. $3,500 a month doesn't make any sense. You know how popular I am." "That's more than enough for someone of your caliber," Andre said. You really think we need an actor like you? Our company already has enough talented actors. The only reason we recruited you and the others was to prevent Tanith Corporation from producing any new successful movies. Andre looked at Gavin in disdain. You're useless to us now that we're done with Tanith Corporation. You're no different from the trash. I'll give you $3,500 a month, but personally, I think it's too much for you. After the $500 million donation incident, Zanger Corporation's reputation plummeted. Even Gavin, Isaac, and the other supporting actors were questioned by the public. They were accused of assisting the company while receiving benefits in exchange. Andre had no intention of treating Gavin, Isaac, and the others well. They were at most pawns that had served their purpose. They no longer had any use for them. Gavin couldn't hold in his anger. He lost control of his emotions and rushed at Andre, but before he could punch him in the face, Andre's subordinates stopped him. They gave Gavin a good beating, leaving him with bruises on his arms. Isaac trembled with fear. What about you, Isaac? Do you also want justice? No, I don't, he stuttered. Kick them out, Andre instructed. Oh, right. Return the money we gave you before you sign the contracts. If you don't, what happened here today will happen again. Gavin and Isaac were forced to give up the money. Gavin gave up most of the $5 million he'd received, leaving only $3,500 behind, while Isaac gave up most of the $1 million he'd received, leaving only $1,500 behind. As for Kayla and Brielle, Gavin and Isaac never saw them again. What should we do now? Isaac asked helplessly. Don't tell me we're going to be bound to Zanger Corporation for our entire lives. Gavin sighed. He didn't have any solutions. You have to think of something, Isaac said. Haven't you seen what Andre and Shun have done so far? They're not good people. They don't even see us as human beings. We're lower than trash. If we continue to stay here, I wouldn't be surprised if our lives were cut short by 30 years. What if we cancel our contracts with Zanger Corporation? Gavin suggested. Don't mess around. It's clearly written in the contract. If we cancel it, we'll have to pay $100 million in compensation. Where are we going to get that much money? Hope dimmed from Gavin's eyes, and then he looked up and said, We don't have $100 million, but we know someone who does. Who are you talking about? Kim. We can ask her to pay the $100 million for us. Are you serious, Gavin? We betrayed Tanith Corporation. Do you think Miss Kim will still want to help us? Why wouldn't she? When Jake left and joined Grazing Corporation, we were the ones who helped Tanith Corporation out of its crisis. And we helped them gain $1 billion in the box office and $500 million in profits. We're worthwhile celebrities to keep around. That does make sense. All right, let's go look for Miss Kim, Isaac said. When Gavin and Isaac showed up at Tanith Corporation, they were stopped by a security guard at the entrance. Gavin was annoyed and punched the security guard in the face. Are you new or what? Don't you know who I am? I'm Gavin, the actor everyone's talking about. Get out of my way. The security guard had recently taken up his post, so he wasn't familiar with the employees' faces yet. But he had heard that Gavin was no longer with Tanith Corporation. Does it matter who you are? You don't work here. You can't casually walk in without a pass. Without me, Tanith Corporation wouldn't have gotten to where it is today, Gavin spat. He caused a commotion in front of the building and wouldn't leave, so the security guard sent a message to Stephen. The security guards at Wyvern Group's security department were skilled, so Stephen suggested having some of them work at Tanith Corporation. Kim had agreed. In other words, Stephen was also the director of the security department at Tanith Corporation. Stephen rushed over. What's going on here? The security guard pointed at Gavin. Mr. Adams, he doesn't have a pass, but he's insisting on entering without one. He also got violent with me. Gavin put on a smile when Stephen came. He was here for a favor. Mr. Adams, I came to meet with Miss Kim, but the security guard was being rude, so I taught him a lesson. I hope you don't mind. I do mind. Gavin just started working here. Understandably, he doesn't recognize you. You're supposed to be a trending actor. Don't you know how to act properly and treat people with respect?" Gavin was stunned. He needed a second to process Stephen's words. Stephen ignored him and asked the security guard, "Was he the one who hit you?" "Yes. I tried to stop him from barging into the building, but he wouldn't listen and tried to use violence." "Throw him out. If he shows up again with the same violent attitude, you may use force to defend yourself." Just when Gavin was about to get angry, Isaac stopped him. "Calm down. We're here to ask Miss Kim for help. If you make a scene here, it'll make things difficult for us." Gavin held in his anger and forced a smile. "I'm sorry if you're angry, Mr. Adams. Can you let us in? We have urgent matters to discuss with Miss Kim." "If you have something to say, you can tell me," Stephen said. Gavin thought it was over. Stephen was the one who had taken him to Tanith Corporation. He was also Kim's husband, so he supposed it would be fine to tell him. "We've been tricked by Zanger Corporation." "Oh, really now? Didn't you say that they would be paying you $30 million? Theoretically speaking, you should be living a comfortable life." Isaac interrupted. "It's all a lie. We all signed a contract. Gavin's monthly salary is $3,500 and mine is $1,500. To make things worse, it's a lifetime contract." "That doesn't sound too bad. Do you know how many people in this city make less than $3,000 a month?" "The problem is that this contract is for a lifetime. Even for people who are making less than $3,000, 5 years later or even 10 years later, do you think they'll still be making that much?" Gavin asked. Stephen smiled. "Of course not. That's why we have a problem. Whether it's 5 years later, 10 years later, or even when we're about to retire, our salary is fixed." "Okay, so are you here to show off how consistent your wage is?" "Mr. Adams, please stop joking. We both regret signing this contract, so we're planning on breaking it." Stephen played dumb. "If you want to violate the rules, then do it according to the regulations. Why are you here?" Gavin was anxious when Stephen didn't seem to be catching on to the main point. "Mr. Adams, we're here to ask Miss Kim for assistance. If we violate the contract, we'll have to pay a penalty of $100 million to Zanger Corporation. We don't have that much money." "So you want her to pay for you?" "That's right. We're popular actors on the rise, and we can bring Tanith Corporation even more profits in the future," Gavin said. "Mr. Adams, we don't have any other choice," Isaac echoed. "Gavin, do you know how much trouble you caused Kim when you left Tanith Corporation for Zanger Corporation? And did you forget what you said at the charity event? You caused more than $100 million in losses. That's why, if you want to take it up with Kim, you'll have to show your sincerity." "Okay, I understand," Gavin said. He whispered in Isaac's ear. Isaac was hesitant. "Are you sure about this?" "Listen to me and do as I say. There's no other way. We have to do everything we can. Our reputations are worth nothing compared to this inhumane contract." Stephen was curious as to how Gavin was planning on expressing his sincerity. Isaac left and returned with a group of reporters, their cameras focused on Gavin. "I'd like to clarify the misunderstanding I caused at Zanger Corporation's charity event. I was a rookie when I starred in 5 big online movies. I signed a contract to be paid $100 million per movie before the filming began. This is more than what most rookie actors would make. In addition, Tanith Corporation promised that after the 5 movies were released, they would sign a new contract with me. I apologize for what I said at the charity event. It was uncalled for." Gavin's criticisms of the Tanith Corporation had been the talk of the city, and it negatively impacted the company's reputation. Now that he was taking back his words, this would be another hot topic for the reporters. "To express my sincerity, I've decided to apologize to Tanith Corporation on the spot." Gavin stepped in front of Stephen and lowered his head. "Mr. Adams, please forgive me." The shudder of cameras filled the air. If Stephen hadn't seen Gavin for who he really was after his rise to fame, he would have been fooled by his excellent acting skills. "I forgive you, Gavin. However, I'm very sorry, but Tanith Corporation's policies have changed." "What do you mean?" "We're not collecting trash anymore." Several reporters snickered. Gavin had accused Tanith Corporation of scamming him and switched to Zanger Corporation, causing a storm in the city. Today, he was taking the initiative to express his regrets, and it was obvious that he wanted Tanith Corporation to take him back. The well-informed reporters had already discovered that Gavin had signed a contract with Zanger Corporation. Therefore, Stephen's analogy made the situation even more amusing. Gavin's expression darkened. He knew that if he continued this charade, he would only be humiliating himself. Without another word, he left with Isaac. As soon as Gavin and Isaac returned to Zanger Corporation, Andre's people took them away. "Gavin, what do you think you're doing? You went to Tanith Corporation and apologized to Kim's husband, Stephen. Are you trying to discredit our company?" Gavin had gathered a group of reporters, so the news spread quickly in the city. Andre was the first to hear about it. "Mr. Andre, please hear me out," Gavin pleaded. "You want to explain?" Andre motioned to his subordinates, who cracked their knuckles. "You can explain to them." When Stephen returned to the CEO's office, he found Kim standing in front of the window. She probably saw everything that just happened. He walked over to her. "Did you see Gavin and the reporters?" Kim nodded. "I did." "Are you mad that I kicked him out? Despite his personality, he could have made you more money." "People like Gavin are greedy," Kim said. "They're even more disgusting than Jake. If I let him come back, he'll cause more trouble sooner or later. As you said, Tanith Corporation is not collecting trash. Those actors we recruited may have turned out like this, but fortunately Julia hasn't changed. She works just as hard as when she joined us." Stephen agreed. "There are many talented actors we can recruit. With the Wyvern Group and Tanith Corporation's influence, it won't be hard for us to find other actors to replace Gavin and the others who left." "The more I hear you talk like that, the more you sound like the owner of the Wyvern Group," Kim teased. Stephen fell silent. Kim observed his expression as she recalled the way he'd handled situations like this before. Could he really be the owner of the Wyvern Group? Before Kim could question him further, her phone rang. Jasmine was calling. "Kim, have you seen the news? Gavin slandered you and your company at Zanger Corporation's charity event. Today, he clarified the misunderstanding in front of all the reporters. Your reputation is restored." Kim smiled and raised her head to look at Stephen. "We should thank Steve—" Jasmine interrupted her. "That's right. You should thank the owner of the Wyvern Group. If he didn't help you, how do you think an actor who signed with an international enterprise like Zanger Corporation could have apologized so easily?" "You're right," Kim said after a pause. "Actually, I'm the one you should be grateful to. I'm the outstanding vice president of his company. My best friend was in trouble. How could he not lend you a hand?" "Does that mean I'm basking in your glory?" "That's right. So how are you going to thank me?" Kim laughed. They'd made plans to have a meal together several times, but they kept getting interrupted. "To express my gratitude, I'll treat you to lunch." "Okay, I'll see you at noon. Oh, right. Don't forget to bring your husband along. If he spends more time with an outstanding career woman like me, he'll be rising up the ranks in no time." Kim glanced at Stephen. Jasmine's impression of him had changed a lot recently. She even wanted to help him improve. When it was almost noon, Stephen drove back to the Wyvern Group to change out of his uniform, while Kim headed to the restaurant to meet up with Jasmine first. Unbeknownst to both of them, a Toyota was parked in front of Tanith Corporation. Shun was sitting in the driver's seat with his hand on the steering wheel. Andre pointed at the car that was driving out of the building's parking lot. "That Mercedes-Benz S-Class is Kim's car." Shun grinned. "She has good taste. She should be even better than Kayla and Brielle. Not bad. I like her already." He stepped on the gas and chased after her. Kim was unaware of the danger behind her. She stopped at an intersection when the light turned red. Her heart almost leapt out of her chest when something rammed into the back of her car. Kim turned around. It was a Toyota. She got out of the car just as Shun and Andre stepped out. Shun spoke first. Look what you did to my car. You'll have to compensate me. Sir, you're the one who bumped into my car, Kim said. I don't think so, Shun said shamelessly. The light turned green, and cars started piling behind them. They honked for them to get out of the way. Several cars crossed the line and drove around them. Kim was in a hurry to meet up with Jasmine, so she couldn't be bothered with him. Okay, I'm not going to argue. The insurance will handle this. I'll call them right now. Wait, Shun said. You crashed into my car, and now you want to call insurance? Kim frowned. What more do you want? Miss, I'll be straightforward with you. You crashed into my car and caused me psychological damage. That's not something the insurance can help with. Kim saw no signs of psychological damage on his face. As a matter of fact, he seemed pleased with himself. Then how do you want to be compensated for the supposed damage done to your psyche? Shun smiled. That's easy. Spend a night with me. You're crazy, Kim said, shaking her head. Hold on. Do you know who I am? Of course, you're Tanith Corporation's CEO, Kim Cassidy. You're famous in Los Angeles. I heard you have a good-for-nothing husband. Andre came over. This is the vice president of Zanger Corporation, Shun Watanabe. It's an honor for him to fancy you. Andre, you two followed me, didn't you? You intentionally caused this car accident. Yeah, it was on purpose. What are you going to do about it? Shun asked. Isn't that obvious? Kim took out her phone and called the police. Go ahead, Shun said indifferently. 15 minutes later, a traffic police officer arrived. He observed the scene and identified the car accident as Shun's responsibility. Shun glanced at Andre, who pulled out his phone and made a call. A moment later, the captain of the traffic police hurried over. He ran up to his colleague. Are you crazy? Shun Watanabe is the son of Zanger Corporation's CEO. You can't give him a ticket. The traffic police officer's eyes widened. He'd heard of Shun before. It was well known that he relied on his father's status to get out of all crimes he committed back home. Many law enforcement agencies turned a blind eye, which caused Shun to become even more arrogant. Getting away with traffic accidents was a common occurrence. Apologize to him and make that girl let it go, the captain ordered. But she's driving a Mercedes-Benz S-Class. She's probably a high status too. No matter how high her status is, it can't match up to Zanger Corporation. His words made sense, so the traffic police officer told Kim to let it go as instructed. Kim was not one to let someone walk all over her, especially when it was someone like Shun. It was obvious that he was trying to make things difficult for her. Kim gave Stephen a call and explained the situation. He rushed over. After hearing the captain and traffic police officer's decision, he flatly rejected them. I disagree. The captain reached out to pat Stephen's shoulder and kindly advised, Listen, he's a foreigner. It's fine for us to treat him courteously. You shouldn't mess with Zanger Corporation. Whether he's a foreigner or not, the laws exist. He doesn't deserve our respect or our courtesy. Besides, his terrible reputation is all over the internet. It's clear what kind of person he is. The more Stephen spoke, the louder his voice became. This attracted the attention of quite a few passerbys. They were impressed by his just and morally upright speech and gave him a round of applause. This embarrassed the captain. We're enforcing the law. Stop messing around and hindering us. You're accusing me of disturbing your work when you're being biased towards people who break the law. All right, I want your bureau chief to personally come and see just how his employees are handling their jobs. The captain laughed when Stephen took out his phone. I suggest you don't make this any bigger than it has to be. Do you think you're a big shot just because your wife drives a luxury car around the city? Do you really think you can order my boss around? Stephen glanced at him but didn't say anything. He dialed the bureau chief's number. Hello, it's Stephen. Someone crashed into my wife's car at the intersection near Tanith Corporation. Then he hung up without waiting for a reply. The bureau chief stared blankly at his phone, trying to process the short phone call. What was going on? Was the commander-in-chief's wife in a car accident? He quickly contacted the Commissioner of Transportation, and without delay, the two of them rushed to the scene. The captain was stunned when they arrived. He looked at Stephen suspiciously. Did he really call the bureau chief here? No, that was impossible. They probably came because Shun was involved. The captain gestured to Stephen. His wife crashed into Mr. Shun's car and refuses to compensate. The bureau chief was aware of Stephen's real identity. He paled when the captain pointed at him so rudely. Stop this nonsense. I checked the surveillance cameras before I came. Mr. Shun was the one who crashed into Miss Kim's car. The captain couldn't make sense of the bureau chief's actions. Similar situations like this had happened in the past, and every time, the bureau chief would let it go. The captain figured the bureau chief hadn't realized Shun's identity. This is Shun Watanabe. He's affiliated with Zanger Corporation, he whispered. The Commissioner of Transportation chimed in. Who cares what his identity is? He broke the law, and he should be punished accordingly. We can't let him off just because he's from another country and doesn't understand our laws. He committed a crime, and he deserves to be punished according to the law. His righteousness earned another round of applause from the crowd. The bureau chief nodded in satisfaction. Well said. He turned to Stephen. Mr. Adams, are you all right with how we're handling this case? As long as you impartially enforce the law, Stephen said. Understood. The bureau chief gave the Commissioner of Transportation a look, who turned to the captain. Did you hear that? I understand, the captain said. He turned to Shun and Andre. Mr. Shun, you intentionally crashed into Miss Kim's car. You're charged with reckless driving, endangering the public, and extortion. You will be held in custody for 15 days. In addition, we will report this case to the authorities for a trial. One more thing. Revoke his driver's license, Stephen added. The captain looked at the bureau chief as if he was asking what he should do. The bureau chief was annoyed. Why were his employees so blind? He nodded in frustration. Mr. Shun, your driver's license will be revoked, the captain said. My driver's license belongs to Japan. What right do you have to revoke it? Shun had never faced punishment for any crime. This went beyond his expectations. More police officers arrived and restrained him. What are you doing? Shun demanded. I'm a guest. Aren't you afraid of causing a diplomatic dispute by treating me like this? No matter how much he struggled, he was still taken away. Moreover, his attitude during the arrest angered the onlookers. They began criticizing him. Andre prepared to slip away, but the bureau chief stopped him. As Mr. Shun's partner, you will be brought to the station as well. The police officers returned and took Andre away. The bureau chief turned to Stephen and asked for his opinion. He may not be a citizen of this country, but we'll handle this case impartially, Stephen said. By the way, I heard he's the son of Zanger Corporation's CEO. You are members of the law enforcement agency. If you don't handle this matter properly, it could cause public criticism. We'll take care of it, Mr. Adams. After Kim and Stephen left, the captain asked the bureau chief, Who was that? Was it worth it to offend Mr. Shun for him? You don't have the qualifications to know his identity. There's only one person like him in existence. Because of this incident, Kim and Stephen were half an hour late to the restaurant. When they arrived, Kim told Jasmine what had happened. Jasmine's brain filled in the details and connected the dots. Do you really think that Stephen's that influential? Zanger Corporation is powerful, but so is the Wyvern Group. They're Tanith Corporation's biggest backer. How could the bureau chief not show up in person? That makes sense, Kim said. I wonder who the owner of the Wyvern Group is. He has so much influence that he can take care of any issue. Of course, he's incredible. That's why I'm pursuing him. Come on, you don't even know what he looks like. When you meet him and find out he's not your type, will you move on to someone else the very next day? Jasmine rolled her eyes. Do you really think I'm that kind of person? Kim and Stephen exchanged a glance before nodding. Hey, are you two ganging up on me? If you keep this up, we can't be friends. While the three of them were chatting and laughing, the earlier incident with Shun was forgotten until Stephen received a call from the bureau chief. Mr. Adams, a representative from Zanger Corporation has come to bail Shun Watanabe out. What should we do? Stephen was involved in Shun's arrest, so the bureau chief felt like he had to ask him for his opinion. What does the government think? Stephen asked. As the largest international enterprise in the country, they'd made significant contributions to the GDP. Therefore, the local government in Washington, D.C. should know by now that Shun was detained. They're hoping we can let him go because no one was injured. Zanger Corporation contributes to the economy in terms of taxes, and they have many connections. It's inconvenient for the country to have a falling out with them, the bureau chief explained. Stephen found it amusing that the government was using the excuse of paying taxes to get Shun out of detention. Zanger Corporation had stolen Neil's $100 billion worth of assets. No amount of taxes could make up for that. If the government wants to play the part of a good guy that badly, then I'll be the bad guy. If anyone wants to bail Shun out, they'll have to pay $1 billion. $1 billion? Isn't that too much? It's reasonable. The bureau chief didn't dare to question the commander-in-chief and informed the commissioner of transportation that Zanger Corporation would have to pay a bail of $1 billion. He emphasized that this was Stephen's instructions. Shun's father, Ichiro Watanabe, had instructed Andre to bail his son out. Andre was shocked when he was told how much it would cost. You're deliberately making things difficult for us. This is what the higher-ups wanted. If you don't pay $1 billion, Mr. Shun won't be getting out of here today, the captain said. The captain was uncharacteristically firm. Andre suspected that this incident involved someone much more influential than Zanger Corporation. Let me call Mr. Shun's father. $1 billion is a lot of money. I can't make that decision on my own. Shun makes a scene everywhere he goes. When he gets out, make sure he keeps a low profile, Ichiro said. $1 billion was a large sum, but Zanger Corporation had taken Neil's assets, so it didn't matter. Even if they hadn't, Shun was his son. He had to get him out, even if it cost $10 billion. Andre wanted to tell Ichiro that it would be impossible for him to make Shun keep a low profile, but he swallowed his words. He paid the $1 billion bail, and Shun was released. This is a trick, Shun spat. We can't let our $1 billion go down the drain like this. Andre, give me the car keys. Where are you going? Obviously, we're going for a ride. I have to let these people know that $1 billion is worth nothing to us. A wave of apprehension washed over Andre when he saw the expression on Shun's face. He'd just gotten out of detention, and he was already planning on harming someone else. Andre recalled Ichiro's words as he watched Shun start the car. Your driver's license has been revoked. You're not allowed to drive. Shun smacked the back of Andre's head. Who do you think you are to teach me a lesson? That's not it. I'm just trying to tell you that this is a bad idea. Who cares if my driver's license is revoked or not? Someone like me doesn't need a driver's license. Shun stepped on the accelerator and sped down the street on the main road. He drove recklessly and ignored all traffic regulations. Shun was over the speed limit. He didn't bother to look at the traffic lights or the vehicles around him. He didn't care even when he bumped into another car. Andre was sitting nervously in the passenger seat and holding on to the handle for dear life. Mr. Shun, where are you going? He asked carefully. Tanith Corporation. I have to have Kim tonight. There's also that leading actress, Julia. I'll get her too. Oh, right. I heard Kim's friend is the vice president of the Wyvern Group. They might be together. Andre became restless with anticipation. Although Shun had a wild personality, he knew how to reward those who followed him. He would have a share of the fun tonight. Give Robin and Cal a call and tell them to come over. With them here, we can have all the fun we want without worrying. Andre took out his phone and made a call. Robin and Cal were bodyguards, and they had black belts in karate. Their skills were unparalleled. Shun may be reckless, but he wasn't brainless. He stopped the car by the side of the road and waited for Robin and Cal. Shun continued on his way after they arrived and got in the car. When Tanith Corporation came into view, he stepped on the accelerator and broke through the gates. The security guard jumped to the side to avoid the Toyota speeding past the gate. He reached for his walkie-talkie and shouted, "Reporting, a Toyota broke through the gate. It seems to be out of control. Please take care." The car rampaged across the parking lot before swerving to a stop. The employees rushed to get out of the way. Several people lost their balance when the car rushed past them. Shun peered out the car window and scanned the building for Kim's office. "Robin, Cal, it's time. Get out of the car." Meanwhile, Kim was discussing further plans for the media and entertainment department with Stephen in the CEO's office. A loud crash sounded from outside. Stephen went over to the window to see what was going on. With one glance, he could tell that it was Shun and Andre inside the car. "What is it?" Kim asked. "It's Shun. Looks like he came here directly after being bailed out. Let's head downstairs and see what they want." Kim followed Stephen out of the office and took the elevator down to the lobby. Andre, Robin, and Cal were with Shun. "Mr. Shun, your driver's license was revoked. Are you ignoring our laws?" Stephen said. Shun laughed. "What law? I'm not from around here, so how can the law keep me in check?" Stephen motioned the employees struggling to regain their bearings after Shun's car startled them. "You're in our country right now, so you're not an exception to our laws. You even hurt our employees with your car. Mr. Shun, I think your memory is failing you. Have you forgotten the reason why you were in detention? Do you want to go back in there?" "Don't think you can say whatever you want just because you have the bureau chief on your side. I wasn't even in the detention center for a day before I got out. I'm here to return the favor. You're just a security guard relying on the support of the Wyvern Group. I'll be taking Kim and Julia. If you know what's good for you, stay out of my way." "You want to take my wife? You'll have to get my permission first." "Have it your way." Shun signaled for Robin and Cal to come forward. They were tall and muscular. Stephen eyed the black belts around their waists. Shun smirked. "Are you scared? I'll let you in on a secret. Robin and Cal are students of Jer Wilkins. They're proficient in martial arts, sword arts, aikido, judo, and many more. None of their opponents have survived." "Jer Wilkins? So that old man is still alive." Back when 40 countries formed an alliance to take over the U.S., Stephen led the 4 great generals across the ocean and took down General Kevin's country. Jer Wilkins was the advisor, and Stephen had beaten him to a pulp in less than 3 moves. Jer was seriously injured, and he promised that if Stephen spared his life, he would hide in his mansion for the rest of his life. Who would have thought that Jer's students would take on the goal of reviving the ashes of their fallen country? "How dare you disrespect me, Mr. Wilkins? You're begging for an early death." "I think the ones seeking death are you guys." Stephen beckoned them with a finger. "You two can attack me together. Let's see how strong that old man's students are." His provocative words infuriated Robin and Cal even more. They rushed over and swung their fists. Robin and Cal were worthy of their black belts. The momentum of their fists was enough to whip up a torrent of wind that ruffled the onlookers' clothes. Stephen didn't move. He caught Robin's fist and snapped his wrist just as Cal rushed over. Stephen gave him the same treatment. Then he tossed both of them over his shoulder, and they crashed to the ground, landing on top of each other. Stephen dusted his hands and walked over to Shun. "Jer's students are only so-so. Maybe they cheated their way to the top and bribed someone to get those black belts. Mr. Shun, you may have been deceived by them." Shun began to panic when he saw how easily Stephen had taken down the invincible Cal and Robin. "Don't come near me. I'm a member of Zanger Corporation. You'll regret it if you do anything to me." "You plan to kidnap my wife, harmed many of our employees, and look down on our country's laws. You disregard the lives of people and think you can do whatever you want. I'll have to seek justice for them." "It's illegal to hit someone," Andre warned. Shun was Ichiro's son. He wouldn't know how to explain the situation if Stephen were to beat him up. "You're threatening me with the law? Mr. Shun drove his car past the gates without permission and harmed many of our employees. Those two people on the ground came at me with the intention to kill. They've broken the law on many levels. If I smack him once or twice, would it really be considered breaking the law?" Tanith Corporation's employees watched from a distance. From the look in their eyes, it was obvious that they wanted Stephen to avenge them and Shun's victims. Shun's crimes were plastered all over the internet, and it was a wonder how he hadn't been locked up yet. "Judging from the looks on everyone's faces, they agree with me. The will of the people cannot be defied." Shun was also skilled in martial arts, but he was nothing in front of Stephen. Stephen gave him a good thrashing and forced him to take out $1 million as compensation for the ruined gates and the injured employees. Ichiro received a call from Andre and boarded a plane to Santa Ana. When he arrived at the hospital, Shun was lying on the bed covered in bandages. Andre stood up to explain. "I'm sorry. It's my fault for not taking good care of him." "Who did this?" "Stephen Adams. He's the husband of Tanith Corporation CEO Kim Cassidy, and he's also the director of the security department at the Wyvern Group." "Does this country not have any laws? How could he have been beaten to this state in public?" Andre pulled Ichiro to the side and whispered, "Stephen's martial arts are astounding. He defeated Robin and Cal in one strike." "Doesn't that mean he's invincible?" "Not necessarily, but he is at least one tier higher than Robin and Cal. He's a member of the Wyvern Group, which means there are probably more people just like him at that company. If you want to take him on, I'd like to advise you to be careful and not underestimate them." "Robin and Cal are skilled. For him to defeat them in an instant proves how strong he is. Maybe only Jer Wilkins can intimidate him, but I'm not sure if he'll be willing to travel this far. Without him, I don't know how I'm supposed to go up against the Wyvern Group." While Ichiro was at a loss, another idea crossed Andre's mind. "I have a plan. Would you like to hear it?" "Go ahead." Zanger Corporation is currently in conflict with the Wyvern Group, but there doesn't seem to be anything in it for us. We haven't taken over Santa Ana's market yet, so if we keep this up, we'll be at a disadvantage. "Get to the point," Ichiro said impatiently. "Why don't you strike a deal with the government in Washington, D.C.? They've been letting us off the hook so far, but that won't last forever. To keep us in their good graces, we can tell them that Zanger Corporation and the Wyvern Group can negotiate and work together to create a better future for Santa Ana." "Are you suggesting we work with the Wyvern Group? Interesting. Keep going." "Of course, we don't really want to cooperate with them," Andre said. "During negotiations, we'll set some harsh conditions so that the Wyvern Group won't agree to it. We'll take advantage of this situation and declare that the Wyvern Group has no intention of cooperating and plans on monopolizing the city's market. At that time, we'll take the offensive and launch an attack on them." "That's a great idea," Ichiro praised. "It seems keeping you in charge of Santa Ana's branch didn't go to waste. You've learned a thing or two." "Thank you, Mr. Watanabe." "All right, I'll set up a meeting with him." Ichiro turned to leave the ward, but he thought of something as he reached the door. "Miss Serena Lowery from our company's headquarters will be coming soon. She'll be the representative for this negotiation. Find some time to welcome her at the airport. She's the fiancée of the junior vice president. She comes from a wealthy family, so it's imperative that you establish a friendly relationship with her." "Understood," Andre said. The local government in Washington, D.C. accepted Ichiro's request for a truce. They sent news of the negotiation to the Wyvern Group. Stephen laughed when he read the letter. "Zanger Corporation wants to negotiate? I think they don't have anywhere else to go." "Do we need to accept their invitation for a negotiation?" Dennis asked. "The local government in Washington, D.C. has agreed, so we should accept. I'd like to see what tricks Zanger Corporation is trying to pull now. We'll give this task to Jasmine." "We can take advantage of Zanger Corporation's tricks and see how much Miss Jasmine has learned from her time here at the Wyvern Group," Dennis said. He gave Jasmine a call and informed her of the negotiations with Zanger Corporation. Right after Stephen left the CEO's office, Jasmine's secretary told him that she was looking for him. The timing was so coincidental that he was starting to suspect that Jasmine knew who he really was. Stephen cautiously pushed open the door to the vice president's office. "Were you looking for me, Jasmine?" Jasmine rolled her eyes. "How many times have I told you? Please address me with honorifics while we're at work. I have an important task for you." Stephen took a seat across from Jasmine on the couch. "What's this about?" "Mr. Lucero just told me that Zanger Corporation wants to negotiate with us and work together for the development of Santa Ana. During the negotiations, our company will try and gain the upper hand." Jasmine paused and looked Stephen in the eye. "You're one of the most eloquent speakers at the company. You should be an expert at negotiations. That's why I've decided to appoint you as the representative to assist me in the upcoming negotiation talks." Stephen was stunned. "Miss Jasmine, are you saying that you want me to represent you during the negotiation with Zanger Corporation?" Jasmine nodded. "You can think of it that way." Stephen couldn't help but laugh. He and Dennis had racked their brains, trying to figure out who to delegate this task to, but in the end, Jasmine was pushing the negotiations onto him. However, Jasmine had her own selfish motives that Stephen wasn't aware of. Last time, she'd asked him to represent the company for an exclusive interview. That failed, so she'd been looking for another opportunity ever since. When Jasmine received a call from Dennis, Stephen was the first person who came to mind. This was a great opportunity for Stephen to showcase his capabilities and reduce the gap between him and Kim. If he proved himself, everyone would stop looking down on him, which would be a great benefit to Kim's reputation. This could be considered Jasmine's gratitude towards Stephen for helping her several times in the past. "Miss Jasmine, if you assign an important task like negotiations to me, aren't you afraid I'll screw it up? Are you going to take responsibility?" Stephen asked. "Don't worry about it. That's none of your business, Stephen. Assigning you this task is a great opportunity for you. If it goes well, the owner of the Wyvern Group will give you a promotion. You'll be able to enter the ranks of the upper management at this company." "So you're giving me a chance. Miss Jasmine, you've been giving me these kinds of opportunities for a while. Don't tell me you've fallen for me." "Stop joking around. Do you really think someone like you is worthy of me? Besides, my target is the owner of the Wyvern Group. Only a man like him can enter my field of vision." Stephen chuckled. "Is that so?" Since Jasmine had kicked the ball back to his court by pushing the negotiations onto him with a reasonable excuse, he had no choice but to go along with it. He didn't have any reason to refuse. The negotiations would take place at a 5-star hotel in Santa Ana. The government had also sent the Secretary General to preside over the talks. As Zanger Corporation's representative, Serena arrived 30 minutes early. She was wearing a tight-fitted business casual dress that accentuated her curves with the latest Hermes watch on her wrist. She quickly became the center of attention. Serena was used to these kinds of situations. After all, she would soon become the wife of the junior vice president of Zanger Corporation, Kenji Fukuda. The Secretary General gave Serena a warm welcome. She politely returned the greeting and scanned the hotel lobby. "Has the Wyvern Group's representative not arrived yet?" "Not yet," her assistant replied. "There's 20 minutes left before negotiations begin. Is the Wyvern Group not taking this seriously? I'm the representative for Zanger Corporation, and I arrived 30 minutes early. It's obvious that unlike them, my company and I place great importance on today's negotiations." The Secretary General found himself agreeing with her. As expected of a representative from Zanger Corporation, she'd obtained the high ground before the official meeting and created an advantageous situation for her company. Although it wasn't mandatory to arrive early, both parties usually did as an unspoken rule. First, it was a sign of respect for the government officials who were here to preside over the meeting. Second, both parties could get to know each other in advance and exchange pleasantries to promote a friendly atmosphere during negotiations. Stephen arrived and heard the criticisms of Zanger Corporation's staff. He pushed open the door and smiled. "Why is it so noisy in here? People would think you're having an illegal meeting." Everyone turned their gazes to the door. "Stephen, is that you?" Serena asked in disbelief. Stephen was also surprised when he saw her standing at the center of the room. "Long time no see." "It really has been a long time," Serena said. 6 years ago, when Stephen was still with the Addams family and recently established Felicity Corporation, Serena's family requested their daughter and Stephen to be engaged. At that time, Stephen's company, Felicity Corporation, was on the rise. It was like the sun in the sky, and he also had the support of the Addams family. Although Stephen hadn't publicly announced his ties with the Addams family, it wasn't hard to guess that he was one of the favored candidates to become the successor. Serena's family had requested a marriage between their daughter and Stephen for their two families to reach greater heights. Stephen had agreed to the engagement. 3 days before, he disappeared from Santa Ana, and the Addams family suddenly announced that the engagement had been broken. Serena had been secretly in love with Stephen. She hid in her room and cried for an entire day. Stephen's sudden disappearance marked the end of their relationship. Serena hadn't expected to see him again, especially not today. "Do you two know each other?" the Secretary General asked. Serena smiled. "It's more than that." The Secretary General chuckled. "Since you two are old acquaintances, the talks will go well." "Are you the representative from the Wyvern Group?" Serena asked in confusion. "Yes and no. I'm the director of the security department at the Wyvern Group. The vice president asked me to represent the company during today's negotiations." "Director of the security department? 6 years ago, you were one of the top 10 young entrepreneurs. I didn't expect you to turn out this way after a long disappearance. What a pity." Stephen didn't mind that Serena was looking down on him. "All professions deserve respect. There's no such thing as pity." "That makes sense," Serena said with a smile. She turned to the Secretary General. "I think we can end today's negotiations here." "What do you mean?" "I believe you're aware of who I am. I'm Zanger Corporation's legal advisor. I'm the representative for any high-level negotiations involving my company. Most importantly, I'm Kenji Fukuda's fiancé." Serena looked at Stephen in contempt. "The Wyvern Group has sent a security guard to participate in negotiations. They're clearly looking down on us. I have the right to terminate negotiations until we're treated equally and with respect." The Security General glanced at Stephen. He knew a thing or two about Stephen's identity. No matter how incredible Zanger Corporation was, they would never be able to compare to the Commander-in-Chief. Having the commander attend the negotiations in person was already giving them much more respect than they deserved. Unfortunately, it wasn't his place to reveal Stephen's identity. Stephen could tell that the Secretary General was in a difficult position, so he interjected. "I agree with your proposal. When I return to the Wyvern Group, I'll relay your message to the CEO." "All right then, that's it for today." Serena was satisfied with the outcome and led her entourage to the door. She turned around in the doorway. "By the way, Kenji and I are planning to have our wedding in Santa Ana in around a week. Will you be attending?" "I'll be there, and I'll be giving you a big gift," Stephen replied. Truthfully, he'd always felt like he owed her something after disappearing so suddenly back then. He'd never had feelings for her, but he did consider her as a younger sister. It wouldn't be difficult to make her wedding grander than it already was. "I'll look forward to it," Serena said. Stephen didn't know that Serena had been brooding over what had happened 6 years ago. She met Stephen by chance today, and she would take this opportunity to pay him back for the humiliation she suffered after he broke the engagement back then. Kenji was the junior vice president of Zanger Corporation, and he outclassed Stephen's position by a mile. It was even better than marrying the successor of the Addams family. When Serena went home, she told her parents about her encounter with Stephen. "Serena, you did the right thing," her father, Henrik Lowery, said. He remembered how the Addams family had abandoned them after agreeing to the engagement. "We'll use this marriage to get back at him." Serena's mother, Jolene Lowery, agreed. "When the time is right, we'll humiliate the Addams family." The support of her parents strengthened Serena's resolve. She called Kenji and told him her thoughts. He was interested in participating in her plan to get back at the man she'd been engaged to 6 years ago. "Back then, I practically begged the Addams family to let Serena marry Stephen," Henrik said. "I didn't think they would go as far as to break the engagement. Now she's about to marry the junior vice president of Zanger Corporation. During the wedding, we have to make Stephen regret his decisions. We have to make him know how capable our daughter is, and that she's too good for him. Serena's family began making preparations for the wedding. To maintain their reputation, they didn't ask Kenji's help. They didn't want to give off the impression that their marriage was for his money. Her family ended up paying a hefty sum to prepare for the wedding. Serena sent invitations across the city. Almost all of the elite families received an invitation. This would be her chance to get back at Steven. When Steven went home after work, Kim gave him the invitation she found in the mail. "Is Serena your colleague?" "She's my ex-fiancée." "So, your ex-girlfriend is getting married, and she's inviting her ex-boyfriend to her wedding? I didn't know you were so romantic." Steven chuckled. "That's all in the past." He told Kim about his engagement with Serena 6 years ago. "What do you think? Should I attend her wedding?" Kim was moved after hearing him out. "That's quite a story. Since you feel like you owe her something, you should attend. It'll be like attending your younger sister's wedding. You should prepare a big gift for her." "That's a great idea. Thanks, Kim." Steven kissed her cheek without thinking too much of it. Kim's heart skipped a beat. She reached up to touch her face. This was the first time Steven had kissed her since they were married. Steven was lost in thought and didn't notice Kim's embarrassment. "What do you think I should get her?" His gaze shifted to the TV. Starlight of the Danube River was being auctioned. It was a necklace that was crafted by a top jewelry designer for over 10 years. It cost $1 billion, and there was only one of its kind in existence. The starting price had already reached $5 billion, which was enough to scare off many people. This was it, the perfect gift. A week passed in the blink of an eye, and it was finally the day of Serena and Kenji's wedding. Serena's family had prepared the wedding to be as grand as possible. The best man was one of Kenji's cousins, and the maid of honor was from a wealthy family in Washington, D.C. Serena was dressed in a beautiful wedding dress. It was made by hand and cost over $10 million. When Serena walked out, she became the focus of everyone's attention. Several bridesmaids were gathered in a circle as they discussed amongst themselves. Serena joined them and asked with a smile, "What are you all talking about?" "Serena, have you heard? Someone bid $50 million on the Starlight of Danube River last night." $50 billion for a necklace? Isn't that a bit too much? "I know, right? My family's assets don't even come close to $50 billion. I wonder which lucky woman will receive the necklace." One of the bridesmaids turned to Serena. "Do you think Kenji bought it for you? It would be an amazing present for your wedding." "Nope," Serena said. "Kenji treats me well, but $50 billion is not a small amount. He wouldn't buy it for me." A silence followed, and the atmosphere turned awkward. "You guys chat. I'll head to the door to greet the guests," Serena said, walking away. The Starlight of the Danube River had caught her eye ever since it was announced to the public. Kenji had said that he would buy it for $2 billion and give it to her as a gift, but neither of them had expected the price to soar to $5 billion so quickly. Serena was sure that whoever had purchased the necklace wasn't Kenji. When she arrived at the entrance, her parents, Henrik and Jolene, were welcoming the guests. Almost all of the elite families in Santa Ana had arrived. Andy Harrell, who had recently retired, was also there. He was accompanied by his granddaughter, Tanya. Austin arrived after them with his parents, Ivan Adams and Lily Adams. When Steven first arrived in Santa Ana and established the Felicity Corporation to prevent the public from discovering his relationship with the Adams family, Ivan and Lily pretended to be his parents. At that time, Steven and Austin were close friends. Serena's family considered Austin, Ivan, and Lily as representatives of the Adams family. Henrik felt a sense of pride when he saw them. The Adams family had thrown Serena away 6 years ago, but she was doing much better now than she ever did with Steven. "Serena's marrying one of the top executives of Zanger Corporation," Henrik said. Jolene followed up with her own snide remark. "Look at how Steven's doing. The Wyvern Group may be a large company, but it's not worth mentioning in the face of Zanger Corporation. Besides, he's only a security guard." Andy overheard their conversation. He glanced at Henrik and Jolene, but he didn't say anything. Ivan snorted. Even if there were 10 companies like Zanger Corporation, it would never match up to Stephen. When Stephen established Felicity Corporation and became one of the top 10 entrepreneurs, the Addams family had spread rumors that he would become the successor. Ivan wasn't Stephen's biological father, but he cared about him like he was his real son. After the Addams family abandoned Stephen, Ivan and Lily refused to hunt him down and chose to retreat. Not long ago, Austin had gone against Stephen, but in the end, he suffered a crushing defeat and retired. Ivan and Lily found out recently that Stephen was the commander-in-chief. Henrik wasn't pleased with Ivan's attitude. "You're just as arrogant as you were back then. Have you ever considered the consequences of your words?" "You're making a mistake if you think we're the same people we were back then. We no longer need to beg the Addams family for anything," Jolene said. With Zanger Corporation as their backer, she didn't care about Austin's family or Andy. They were nothing to her. After Neil disappeared, Zanger Corporation had been exerting its influence in Washington, D.C. The status of Serena's family had naturally gone up, and they were much more influential than the elite families in Santa Ana. Serena assumed the same attitude as her mother. "I understand how you feel, but Kenji is the junior vice president of Zanger Corporation. How can a mere security guard compare? You said that no one can match up to Stephen, but I disagree. If he was really that competent, why isn't he a CEO anymore? As time passes, he only becomes worse." Ivan wanted to tell them that Stephen was the commander-in-chief, but he couldn't because his identity was confidential. Henrik, Jolene, and Serena smiled smugly as if they had won a war. "Humph, we'll see how long you can maintain that attitude. Enjoy it while it lasts. Today's wedding may be the last time you can act like that," Ivan said. "What did you say?" Henrik clenched his fist as he took a step forward. Andy intervened. "Mr. Henrik, calm down. This is a wedding. You shouldn't get angry on a day like today. We're all guests here." Henrik reluctantly invited Austin, Ivan, and Lily inside. He glared at their backs as they walked into the venue. "When the wedding's over, I'll show Ivan what it means to go against my family." "We have to get back at them for what they did to us 6 years ago," Jolene said. "They ignored us and kicked us to the curb. We'll make them regret it." As for Serena, the person she wanted to humiliate the most was Stephen. She had to vent her frustrations at being abandoned during today's wedding. She wanted him to know that she was now far above him. Serena scanned the crowd. There was no sign of Stephen. She asked her attendant, "Is Stephen here yet?" "Not yet," he replied. "Is he really not coming? Pay close attention to the guests. If Stephen comes, let me know. I want my ex-boyfriend to be the center of attention." "Understood." While Serena was talking to her attendant, guests rushed past her and went outside. It was obvious that some big shot had arrived. Serena followed Henrik and Jolene outside to see who it was. All kinds of luxury cars, like Ferrari, Porsche, Lincoln, and Rolls-Royce, were parked in front of the venue. In stark contrast to those luxury cars, there were a few Patterson cars. It wasn't as extravagant as the rest of the cars, but many of the guests went up to greet whoever was inside. The car door opened and the governor stepped out. Henrik and Jolene were surprised to see him. They didn't think the governor would be attending the wedding. The governor walked up to them and congratulated Serena with a smile. Besides the governor, the chief of police, the chief of the tax bureau, and the chief of industry and commerce bureau, and the other major leaders of Santa Ana had also arrived. Even the local government in Washington, D.C. had sent 2 deputy inspectors to congratulate Serena and her family. "I never imagined a day like this would come," Henrik said. "So many influential figures here. Today is a day worth remembering. Kenji is incredible. He's making the wedding better than it already is." "Serena, do you see how well Kenji treats you? You should do the same for him," Jolene said. Serena was just as surprised as they were. She looked around for Stephen, hoping that he was there to see how amazing her fiancé was. She had come a long way, and she'd become an existence who Stephen could only look up to. In actuality, these influential figures weren't here because of Kenji. Stephen was the one who'd requested these people to attend Serena's wedding. He wanted to make this an extravagant wedding to make up for what happened in the past. Unfortunately, Serena, Henrik, and Jolene misunderstood. When Henrik and Jolene welcomed the important guests into the door and arranged for them to sit near the front, the sound of a helicopter sounded from outside. Everyone rushed out the door and looked up. There was a helicopter hovering a short distance away. Judging from its route, it seemed to be heading for the wedding venue. When the helicopter arrived, everyone saw the eye-catching word "congratulations" on the front. "That's so romantic," one of the bridesmaids exclaimed. "Hey, Serena, do you think Kenji prepared this for you?" "It's very likely," another bridesmaid said. "Serena, help me ask Kenji if he has a brother. I want to marry someone from his family. If he doesn't have a brother, then a cousin will work too." Serena was delighted at their excitement. Every woman looked forward to her wedding. Who wouldn't want their soon-to-be husband to prepare something romantic for them? The helicopter landed and the door opened. A man in a tuxedo stepped out with a stylish box in his hands. He strode over to Serena. She was a little disappointed that it wasn't Kenji, but this gentleman's appearance had attracted the attention of all the guests present. "Are you the beautiful bride, Miss Serena?" Serena was happy with this compliment. "Yes, I am. May I ask who you are?" The man held out the exquisite box in his hand. "My friend asked me to deliver their wedding gift for you." "Who's your friend?" Serena asked. "I'm very sorry, but I promised I wouldn't reveal his name. He'll be here later. At that time, you'll know who he is." Serena accepted the box with a helpless expression. "All right, thank you." This didn't seem to be Kenji's style, but if it wasn't him, who could it be? She couldn't think of anyone who would do these kinds of things for her. Serena gazed at the uniquely decorated box. "What's inside?" The man smiled and said, "Open it and you'll know." Serena removed the lid and a dazzling light illuminated the venue. Her jaw dropped. "It's the starlight of the Danube River," one of the bridesmaids screamed. Many of the guests here today were members of high-class families. All of them had been paying attention to the auction of the necklace until it was sold last night. The bridesmaids were especially excited. Everyone crowded around Serena to see the splendor of the necklace for themselves. Henrik was the only person confused. What's the starlight of the Danube River? But it wasn't his fault for not knowing. Their family wasn't as wealthy as the guests in attendance today. They were using Kenji's wealth and position to raise their family's status. That was why Henrik didn't know much about luxury jewelry. "You're so embarrassing," Jolene chided. "Listen, there's only one starlight of the Danube River in the whole world. Its value goes beyond its monetary cost. Last night, a mysterious man purchased the necklace for 50 billion. I didn't think it would be a wedding gift for Serena." Henrik was stunned. 50 billion? Who could have bought such an expensive necklace? "Maybe it was Kenji?" Jolene guessed. "That's possible. Today is his wedding with Serena. It's normal for him to be generous." This shows how much he loves and appreciates her. Meanwhile, Serena was still a little shaken. In her opinion, Kenji wouldn't be this generous. The starlight of the Danube River was one of its kind, and not many people would spend 50 billion just to have it in their possession. While she was deep in thought, a commotion caught her attention. Kenji had arrived. "We don't know for sure if Kenji brought you the necklace. Why don't you ask him?" Jolene suggested. "Okay, I will." As the junior vice president of Zanger Corporation, many guests hurried over to welcome Kenji as he arrived. Kenji was shocked when all of these influential figures crowded around him. Had Serena's family invited them here? They were more capable than he'd expected. These guests were important leaders of Santa Ana, and he was far from being qualified to gather them all in one place. Kenji's expression changed when he saw Serena coming over. Before he could say anything, Serena asked with anticipation, "Did you prepare all of this for me?" Kenji didn't know what Serena was talking about, but he nodded along. "Serena, I have a funny story to tell you. Last night, some fool spent 50 billion to purchase the starlight of the Danube River." Serena, Henrik, and Jolene froze. It was obvious that the person who purchased the starlight of the Danube River wasn't Kenji. To him, whoever bought the necklace for 50 billion was nothing but a fool. The bridesmaids who'd bragged about Kenji turned away in embarrassment. Kenji didn't notice the awkwardness in the air and continued. Starlight of the Danube River may be one of a kind, but at the end of the day, it's only a necklace. Spending $50 billion to buy it is no different from wasting an entire lifetime of wealth. It's worse than an investment. Once the necklace is yours, its value will only go down as time passes. Who would be stupid enough to buy it for $50 billion? In my opinion, the necklace is worth at most $2 billion. Silence filled the venue. In the past, whenever Kenji made a statement, everyone around him would agree. The contrast in today's reactions confused him. Am I wrong? Did you really not buy the Starlight of the Danube River? Serena asked. Why would I buy that thing? It'd be crazy to spend $50 billion for it. Henrik and Jolene's expressions darkened. They didn't know what to say. They had been praising him up until his arrival. Kenji's blatant criticism of the necklace was a slap to all of their faces. Serena held out a box. Someone bought the Starlight of the Danube River and gave it to me as a wedding gift. Kenji carefully picked up the necklace and examined it. This is the real thing. Who gave it to you? I don't know. Kenji couldn't figure out who would purchase a necklace for $50 billion and give it to Serena. Even if all the elite families in Santa Ana forked over their assets and went bankrupt, they still wouldn't be able to buy a necklace for $50 billion. Even the wealthy families in Washington, D.C. who had the means could be counted on one hand. Since Kenji had made it clear that it wasn't him, the guests began to guess the identity of the mysterious man. However, Andy, Tanya, Austin, Ivan, and Lily knew the answer. To Stephen, $50 billion was equivalent to 2 or 3 days' worth of pocket money. While the guests were discussing the mysterious man's identity, another commotion came from outside. Kenji's assistant ran into the venue and informed him that there was military trucks parked out front. Kenji was confused as to what was going on. When the 2 deputy inspectors from Washington, D.C. and Santa Ana's leaders heard the word military truck, their faces brightened. They all stood up and quickly walked out the door. The rest of the guests followed them. 3 military trucks were parked outside the main gate. The 2 deputy inspectors were surprised when they saw the people who stepped out of the first military truck. It's the commander of Santa Ana's military base, Xavier Riley, and the leader of the Special Forces, Captain Floyd. Although they served in the military, in terms of rank, Xavier's position was equivalent to the governor, while Captain Floyd's rank was similar to a deputy governor. The guests exchanged surprised glances after knowing who they were. Serena hadn't expected such important people to attend her wedding. The surprises didn't end there. Next, 4 people stepped out of the second military truck. They were dressed in a Major General military uniform. Xavier greeted the 2 deputy inspectors and Santa Ana's leaders and proceeded to introduce the next group of people. I believe many of you aren't familiar with their faces, but you must have heard of them before. They're the 4 great generals, Dennis, Rosalind, Zachary, and Jaden. There was silence, and then a thunderous applause erupted from the crowd. The 4 great generals were the pillars of the country's defense. It was precise because of their existence that peace had been maintained for many years. But if the 4 great generals were in the second truck, then the third truck... The 2 deputy inspectors, as well as Santa Ana's leaders, turned to the third military truck with anticipation. Dennis walked to the back of the truck and opened the door. A man dressed in a military uniform with a pair of sunglasses covering half of his face stepped down. Salute, Zachary said. Everyone from the military stood at attention and performed a standard military salute. The 2 deputy inspectors and Santa Ana's leaders straightened their backs with solemn expressions on their faces. The guests froze. They all stared at the new arrival. Serena herself was curious as to who had the power to make these people act so respectfully. Wait a minute, he looked kind of familiar. The man came forward and took off his sunglasses. Serena was astonished. The person who made all these people lower their heads in respect was Stephen. She couldn't believe it. She rubbed hard at her eyes, but when she blinked, Stephen was still standing there in the commander's military uniform. Stephen walked up to her and glanced at the necklace in her hands. He smiled and said, Hi, Serena. This is my wedding gift to you. Do you like it? Serena's eyes widened. You're the person who spent $50 billion to buy the starlight of the Danube River? Yeah. But this is so expensive. $50 billion is pocket money to me. The most important thing is that you like it. If Serena heard these words coming out of Stephen's mouth last week, she would have brushed it off and thought he was messing around. But today, she, along with the other guests, didn't question him. Stephen was influenced to make 2 deputy inspectors, Santa Anna's leaders, Xavier Riley, Captain Floyd, and the 4 great generals show up in one place at the same time. His identity couldn't get more obvious than this. Serena found her situation laughable. She'd worked hard to gain the qualifications necessary to marry Kenji Fukuda, the junior vice president of Zanger Corporation. She thought she'd be able to reach the pinnacle of life and humiliate Stephen, but she never expected that he was already worlds above her. Even the wealthiest family in the country may not be able to purchase a necklace for $50 billion, but to Stephen, it was only pocket money. $50 billion was also a huge sum for Zanger Corporation, but Stephen had spent $50 billion like it was $500 to buy an ordinary necklace from a stall off the streets. And he even gave it to her as a wedding gift. It was at this moment that Serena realized that she and Stephen were not at the same level. The shock was written all over Henrik and Jolene's faces. They finally understood why the 2 deputy inspectors and Santa Anna's leaders had taken the time to attend their daughter's wedding. They weren't here because of Kenji or Zanger Corporation. They'd come to greet the newlyweds, one after another, because of Stephen, the commander-in-chief. Austin, Ivan, and Lily most likely knew about this. That was why they were so dismissive when they entered. Stephen's status alone was enough to make everyone here, including Zanger Corporation, look up to him. Serena fought the urge to cry. She thought she would make a life for herself by marrying Kenji, but in reality, her best life had been lost 6 years ago. The atmosphere turned awkward. The governor was the first person to break the silence. Mr. Henrik, an honored guest is here to celebrate your daughter's wedding. Are you planning on letting him stand around like this? Henrik and Jolene snapped out of their daze. Please, have a seat. No, if I stay, the guests will be wary of me. I came to congratulate Serena and to wish her happiness. Serena smiled bitterly. How was she supposed to live a happy life after this? Kenji was outstanding, but compared to Stephen, it was like a drop in the ocean that wasn't worth mentioning. By the way, Serena, do you like the wedding gift I gave you? Stephen asked again. Yes, it was from you, so of course I liked it. We paid $50 billion for the necklace, but to Serena, it was worth way more than that. Stephen smiled. It's good that you like it. The wedding's about to begin. 2 deputy inspectors, Santa Anna's leaders, the commander of Santa Anna's military base, and the captain of the special forces, the 4 great generals, and me, the commander-in-chief, are here. This should be the highest profile wedding ceremony to ever take place. Everyone nodded in agreement. Serena realized that this was what Stephen meant when he said he wanted to give her a big gift last week. The necklace was worth $50 billion, and these influential figures had somehow appeared out of nowhere. This was his gift to her. Although the standards of a high-profile wedding were objective, this was definitely unprecedented. All right, the gifts have been sent and the blessings have been received. It's time for me to leave, Stephen said. He turned around and walked away. Before Stephen could make it past the gates, Serena called out to him. She held up her wedding dress and jogged up to him in her heels. Stephen, can I hug you? Just once? Serena knew that this was probably the last time they would see each other. She didn't want to have any regrets. Stephen gave her a thoughtful look and nodded slightly in agreement. With his permission, Serena hugged him from behind. She imprinted this moment of warmth into her memory. This was the only time it felt like Stephen was hers. The second he walked past those gates, they would go back to being 2 different people from 2 different worlds. Serena hugged Stephen for several minutes. At the 5-minute mark, Stephen said, All right, it's about time. I should go. Although Serena was reluctant, she let him go. Her tears fell like rain as she watched him leave. The 4 great generals followed him out with the 2 deputy inspectors and Santa Anna's leaders close behind. Before the 2 deputy inspectors left, they told everyone present that today had to be kept a secret. Otherwise, they would face punishment by the National Security Bureau. Even though Kenji was from Japan, due to the Zanger Corporation's complicated business in the U.S., he was also held to the same rules. If he let today's events slip, Zanger Corporation would be in a precarious situation. After Steven and the big shots left, Serena went over to Kenji. "Today is our wedding, but I'm sorry. I don't think I can go through with it." Henrik and Jolene hurried over to stop her. "Serena, are you crazy? What nonsense are you saying?" "What do you mean?" Kenji asked. "Kenji, I know that this is unfair to you, but it wouldn't be right to go through with this marriage when I'm not fully committed." Henrik and Jolene were at a loss. Kenji wasn't on Steven's level, but he wasn't that bad of a marriage partner. Unlike them, Kenji seemed to understand Serena's sincerity. "Okay, I respect your decision.